So I want to do a quick demo on how you can approach drawing these angled offices and the corridor here in this area of the plan. The first thing we need to do is we need to find out what angle this glass wall is at, because everything is going to be parallel and perpendicular to that element, so it's important to know what that is before we start. So if I zoom in here, I can select one of the elements here, go into Properties, and go down to Rotation here, and it's at 80 degrees. So I want to base all of my walls off of an 80-degree angle. There's a number of ways you can input specific angles for a line. If I just enter into the line command and start my line, you can see I've got a number of fields I can fill in near my cursor there. The first one that's highlighted is always going to be your distance, but if you tab, it's going to take you to the angle input. So I could just type in 80 degrees at that point, and it's going to draw an 80-degree line. Now if I knew exactly what the distance was, I can put it in that way. I can say 10 foot, and then tab over and say 80 degrees, and it's going to draw a 10-foot line at 80 degrees. Another way to do it is to use your polar tracking. And the polar tracking is nice because it kind of locks the line in at certain angles. I've got my polar tracking on, so it's blue here. I'm going to click on this arrow next to it so that I can go into the tracker settings. Now if I go into my increment angles that I can lock it at, 80 degrees is not included. So what we want to do is add additional angles. So I'm going to put in my 80 degrees. I'm also going to put in my 170. I'm going to put in 260, and I'm going to put in 350. Whoops, I guess we have to put them in one at a time. 80, new, 170, new, 260, new, and 350. So that'll give me the whole rotation. And then if I click OK, now I can draw a line, and you can see that as I near that 80-degree angle, it kind of locks in, and I get that dashed green line that indicates that it's locked in. And by the same token, if I go close to the 170 here, let me get around here, it does the same thing. And again, it'll do it with the 260 and the 350 as well. So you can use the polar tracking then to make sure that you're drawing at exactly the right angle. So what we're going to do, let's start by putting in the face of those office walls. And we don't have a dimension for the depth of those offices, but just in looking the distance from the door, it looks like it's roughly a foot. I want to make it kind of an even number, so I'm going to make it 11 foot 4. I looked at that ahead of time. So I'm going to draw a line, and I'm going to start from here, and I'm going to go over 11 foot 4, and I'll have to extend it here in a minute. But then what I can do is I can just extend it and I've got it locked in at my 80 degrees. You can see off to the right there. So I'm just going to draw a line, and then what I'm going to do is just extend it. And I'm going to extend it this direction as well. And then what I need to do is do an offset to get my 5-inch wall. And again, I'm going to need to extend it. And I'll go up here and extend it as well, or trim it on this side. Okay, so now I need to get the walls that go in between the offices. Now those we do have specific distances for. So I want to kind of zoom in here, and I am going to go from the intersection of this circle with the wall. Let me try zooming in here on this and see if I can tell for sure where that dimension is taken from. It's not super critical that it's that close. Yeah, it's not. Well, what we can do, actually, we'll start from the top instead and work down, and then the bottom one can kind of work out to wherever it goes to. So I'm going to start from the top here, and I'm going to enter into my line command, and I'm going to start at this intersection, and I'm going to go down along my my angle that's locked in, and I'm going to go down 17 feet, 4 1/2 inch. Yes. And then what I want to do is I want to make sure that this line is perpendicular with this wall. Now I can either use my locked-in polar tracking, which is giving me exactly the right angle, or I can go into my O-snaps and I can make sure that perpendicular is checked. Oops, I lost my line there. Let me try that again here. Zoom in a little bit more. So I'm going to do that one with 17 foot, 4 1/2 inch. And then I should get, see, I'm getting that perpendicular signal as well. So I can then draw that in exactly at the right spot. So now I'm going to offset this by 5 inches. And you can see that it doesn't really quite hit the mullion at exactly the right spot. So you may, you can either do it exactly at the dimensions or you can shift this over. Personally, I like the idea of it being right on this mullion. So I'm going to do a line from the center and go perpendicular, and then I'm going to offset 2 1/2 inch. And you need to treat these drawings as kind of design development drawings. They're not necessarily going to be completely exact. You want to try to maintain the intent of the drawing, but if you have to make little adjustments like that, that's perfectly fine. So now what we want to do is we want to go 17 foot 7. So let me see where, I'm going to guess that's going to hit at another mullion. So let's do an offset at this point. Do 17 foot 7 inches. And let's see where that hits. Yeah, it looks like that's hitting pretty well. So now let's go ahead and offset 5 inches. And let's do the next one. I'm going to do an offset of 11 foot 7. And make sure it's hitting my mullion right. Yep, looks like we're doing good. Okay, and offset another 5 inches. And then that will give us this last one. And then of course you need to trim up your wall intersections and place in your doors. But that should give you an idea of kind of how you can put in the angles and get it exact so that it matches up with this wall. And then of course to get the corridor we can just do another offset. We can offset, it's 5 foot 7. And do an offset of 5 inches again. So that looks like it's hitting about right. And so kind of give that a try. Maybe they need to be scooted over a little bit because we're getting a little bit of a smaller margin here at the door. But the process is going to be the same. You may have to play with the dimensions just a little bit. But try working on that. And if you have any questions as you go along, just let me know.